Machiavelli didn't teach morality. He taught reality. Most people misunderstand Machiavelli because they want comfort, not clarity. They read his work as cruelty because they confuse realism with malice. But Machiavelli was not teaching people how to become evil. He was teaching them how power actually works when appearances are stripped away. Outsmarting in his world was never about deception for its own sake. It was about perception, about seeing what others miss, understanding what people hide, and refusing to confuse ideals with behavior. The truly dangerous mistake is not manipulation. It is naïveté. And Machiavelli wrote for those who wanted to survive reality, not escape it. He understood something most people still resist today. Humans do not behave according to what they say they value. They behave according to incentives, fear, advantage, and self-interest. Society trains people to listen to words, promises, and public identities. Machiavelli trained himself to observe patterns, reactions, timing, and contradictions. He did not ask what people claimed to be. He watched what they did when pressure arrived. That is why his thinking still feels uncomfortable. It removes the fantasy that intelligence is moral performance. Intelligence, in its raw form, is perception without illusion. One of the biggest lies people inherit is that intelligence is loud, that smart people argue well, speak confidently, dominate conversations, and prove their point publicly. Machiavelli understood the opposite. Loud intelligence attracts resistance. Visible intelligence creates enemies. Argumentative intelligence exposes intent. The more you speak, the more information you give away about your emotions, your priorities, your fears, and your limits. Quiet minds dominate noisy ones, not because they are passive, but because they are disciplined. They conserve information while others broadcast it freely. Outsmarting, in Machiavelli's framework, was never confrontational. It was positional. You did not defeat people by opposing them directly. You defeated them by letting them overextend, reveal themselves, or exhaust their leverage. Non-confrontational superiority is invisible to those who believe power must announce itself. It is the kind of superiority that leaves others confused about how they lost, without ever realizing when the shift occurred. This is why Machiavellian intelligence feels quiet. It does not need to be seen to function. This is the moment where identity shifts. Most people live as performers. They speak to be noticed. They react to be validated. They explain to be understood. They argue to feel powerful. The Machiavellian shift is moving from performer to observer. The observer does not rush to signal intelligence. The observer does not interrupt silence. The observer watches how people behave when they think no one is measuring them. And because of that, the observer always knows more than they reveal. Before we go deeper into Machiavelli's reality of power and perception, tap like and hit subscribe, because what comes next strips away comfort, exposes incentives, and shows you why quiet minds keep leverage, while loud minds give it away. And rule 1 follows naturally. Observe more than you act. Action without information is vulnerability disguised as confidence. When you act too quickly, you announce your priorities. You expose your emotional triggers. You show where pressure works. Machiavelli saw premature action as a gift to others. It shortens their learning curve. Observation, on the other hand, costs nothing and returns everything. When you slow down, you notice patterns. You see who speaks when uncomfortable, who rushes when uncertain, who flatters when afraid, and who pressures when insecure. Information accumulates quietly, while others mistake motion for progress. Observation is not indecision, it is a delayed commitment. And delayed commitment creates leverage. The person who acts last often acts best. because they are acting with clarity rather than impulse. This is why Machiavelli distrusted those who rushed to prove themselves. Speed is often a signal of insecurity. Calmness is a signal of advantage. Rule 2 deepens this strategy. Let others reveal themselves first. Silence is not emptiness, it is a tool. When you do not fill space, others feel compelled to. Humans are deeply uncomfortable with unresolved silence. In that discomfort, they explain, justify, overcommit, exaggerate, or expose intent. Silence turns conversations into mirrors. People show you who they are when they are trying to regain control of an interaction. This is why those who speak first often lose leverage. They anchor the conversation emotionally. They define the battlefield before understanding the terrain. Machiavelli understood that the one who waits controls framing. By letting others move first, you gather information without resistance. You learn what they want, what they fear, and how they negotiate pressure. Silence forces people to regulate themselves, and in doing so they leak more than they realize. This is not manipulation, it is asymmetry. You are not forcing behavior. You are allowing behavior to emerge naturally while you remain still. Stillness is not weakness. Stillness is containment. And containment creates advantage because it removes urgency. Without urgency, mistakes surface. The key law behind all of this is simple but brutal. Those who speak first give away leverage. Every unnecessary word narrows your options. Every explanation reveals positioning. Every emotional reaction shortens your advantage. Machiavelli's genius was not cruelty, it was restraint. He understood that reality rewards those who see clearly, move deliberately, and speak last. This is where the quiet outsmart everyone. Not because they are smarter in the traditional sense, but because they are less exposed. They do not confuse expression with intelligence. They do not confuse morality with reality. They understand that power does not belong to the loudest voice in the room. It belongs to the one who sees the room clearly and waits. Power is built through unreadability. Machiavelli valued unpredictability for a reason most people never consider. Predictability is exposure. The moment others can anticipate your reactions, intentions, or emotional patterns, you stop being a variable and become a resource to be managed. Visibility feels virtuous in modern culture. Openness is framed as honesty, transparency as strength. But from a strategic perspective, openness is often nothing more than information leakage. Machiavelli understood that what others know about you does not make them trust you. It makes them capable of using you. Being open creates strategic exposure because it collapses distance. Distance is not emotional coldness, it is informational discipline. When people know what you want, how you feel, what you fear, and what you value most, they no longer need to guess how to influence you. They simply align pressure with your known motivations. This is why power never reveals itself fully. It stays partially obscured, not out of paranoia, but out of necessity. People weaponize what they know about you automatically, not always maliciously, often unconsciously. A colleague who knows you fear conflict will push boundaries. A partner who knows you crave reassurance will withhold it. A rival who knows your ambition will bait you with opportunity. Information creates leverage, even without intent. The more visible your internal world becomes, the easier it is for others to position themselves advantageously against it. This is why emotional transparency is dangerous in uneven environments. Emotions are not just feelings, they are signals. They announce what matters to you, what destabilizes you, and where you are willing to compromise. When emotions are displayed freely, they become data points. And data points are how strategies are built. Machiavelli's third rule cuts directly through this illusion. Never reveal your full intentions. This does not mean lying. It means resisting the impulse to announce direction prematurely. Partial visibility preserves optionality. Strategic opacity protects maneuverability. When others do not know your end goal, they cannot block it efficiently. When they cannot read your priorities, they cannot manipulate urgency. Silence keeps paths open that speech closes. Full revelation feels honest, but honesty without context is vulnerability. Machiavelli did not oppose truth. He opposed unnecessary disclosure. Intentions should be revealed only when they are irreversible, or when revealing them produces advantage. Anything earlier is exposure masquerading as integrity. Rule 4 deepens this discipline. Control emotion, not outcomes. Outcomes are external and often uncontrollable. Emotion is internal and always accessible. Most people exhaust themselves trying to force results while neglecting the one thing they can regulate consistently: their emotional response. Machiavelli understood that calm beats cleverness, because cleverness still leaks anxiety. Calm communicates self-command. Self-command communicates power. Emotional asymmetry is where advantage lives. When one person is emotionally invested and the other is emotionally contained, leverage flows toward containment. The emotionally expressive individual must explain, justify, react, and adjust. The emotionally restrained individual observes, waits, and decides. This imbalance is felt immediately, even if it is never named. This is why manipulators fail against unreadable people. Manipulation depends on emotional access. It requires feedback. It needs visible reactions to calibrate pressure. When reactions disappear, manipulators lose orientation. They escalate, withdraw, or reveal themselves. None of these outcomes benefit them. All benefit the unreadable individual. Unreadability is not coldness. It is selectivity. You still feel. You still care. You simply do not broadcast your internal state on demand. You choose when information moves outward, and that choice alone changes the entire power dynamic. The Machiavellian law governing all of this is simple and unforgiving. What cannot be read cannot be controlled. Once this law is internalized, behavior shifts naturally. You speak less about what you plan. You react less to what others provoke. You allow time to work in your favor, and without confrontation, without announcement, without performance, you quietly outsmart those who mistake visibility for strength. If this is shifting how you see silence, timing, and strategic advantage, tap like and hit subscribe. Your support matters, because it helps this message reach people who are ready to stop performing intelligence and start moving like quiet strategists, outsmarting through timing, not force. Most people lose not because they lack intelligence, but because they move too early. They confuse speed with strength and urgency with importance. Machiavelli saw this mistake everywhere, in leaders, rivals, allies, and entire societies. He understood that action taken at the wrong moment is not courage, it is exposure. When you move too soon, you reveal intent before conditions are favorable. You narrow your options before alternatives can emerge. You invite resistance before leverage exists. Force feels powerful in the moment, but timing decides outcomes long after emotion fades. Urgency is one of the most effective illusions ever used against the human mind. It creates the sensation that something must be done now, even when waiting would produce clarity. This illusion is rarely accidental. Urgency is often manufactured by fear of loss, by artificial deadlines, by social pressure, or by manipulation. When urgency enters a situation, perception collapses. observation stops. Reaction takes over. Machiavelli understood that whoever controls tempo controls advantage. Slowing down when others rush is not hesitation. It is dominance disguised as restraint. Patience becomes a weapon the moment you realize that time reveals what effort cannot. Effort forces outcomes. Time exposes truth. People under no pressure can maintain appearances indefinitely. People under time pressure cannot. The longer you wait, the more masks crack. Inconsistencies surface. Contradictions appear. Impatience leaks intent. What was hidden becomes visible, not because you interrogated, but because you allowed reality to unfold. This is the foundation of Rule 5. Let time expose weakness. Weakness rarely announces itself immediately. It emerges when situations mature. Pressure compresses character. The moment stakes rise or delays stretch, people reveal who they are. Some become reckless, some overpromise, some rush agreements. Others try to provoke movement because stillness unsettles them. Every one of these behaviors is information, and information is leverage. Waiting is not passive. It is an active observation extended across time. While others move to relieve discomfort, the patient mind gathers data without cost. While others speak to regain control, the patient mind listens. While others rush to secure advantage, the patient mind lets advantage come into focus naturally. Time interrogates far more efficiently than confrontation ever could. Pressure reveals truth because it removes performance. Under urgency, people stop managing images and start managing survival. They show priorities through impatience. They reveal fear through acceleration. They expose insecurity through escalation. Machiavelli trusted time more than he trusted words, because words can be crafted. Time cannot. This patience sharpens into Rule 6. Strike only when the advantage is irreversible. Machiavelli did not admire persistence for its own sake. He admired precision. Repeated effort without leverage wastes energy and attention. Precision ends contests cleanly. The strategist does not strike to try. They strike to finish, and finishing requires alignment. An irreversible advantage is structural, not emotional. It exists when circumstances have matured so fully that resistance no longer matters. Acting before this point creates struggle. Acting after creates dominance. The impatient fight battles. The patient ends them. This is why Machiavelli warned against acting from passion, pride, or impatience. Emotion distorts timing. Emotion demands relief. The strategic mind tolerates discomfort long enough for inevitability to appear. Opportunity is fleeting. Inevitability is permanent. Quiet minds wait for inevitability. This is also why quiet victories last longer. Loud victories attract retaliation. They humiliate publicly and invite revenge. Quiet victories dissolve opposition without spectacle. No one knows exactly when they lost, only that resistance no longer works. The outcome feels natural, even inevitable, because it was allowed to mature fully before action occurred. These principles extend far beyond politics or war. In professional environments, the person who speaks last in negotiations often controls terms because they understand what others need. In relationships, the one who does not rush intimacy or conflict sees patterns others miss. In conflict, the one who waits while others escalate forces errors to surface naturally. Timing reshapes every arena where humans interact. This creates a deep identity shift. You stop seeing intelligence as speed and start seeing it as positioning. You stop chasing outcomes and start arranging conditions. You move from reactive thinker to strategic patient mind. You no longer feel compelled to act simply to prove competence. You allow competence to reveal itself through results. Patience is not delay for delay's sake. It is aligned with reality. Reality unfolds whether you act or not. Those who rush fight against it. Those who wait learn how to move with it. When action finally comes from this place, it feels effortless, because resistance has already collapsed. This is the Machiavellian law governing all enduring advantage. Timing outperforms effort every time. When this law is internalized, force becomes optional. Pressure loses authority, and intelligence stops being something you display. It becomes something you deploy once, precisely, and without noise. Influence, without visibility or confrontation. Machiavelli distrusted public dominance because visibility attracts resistance. The moment power announces itself, it invites competition, envy, and coordinated opposition. What is seen can be challenged. What is named can be targeted. What is displayed creates an object for others to organize against. This is why Machiavelli warned rulers not to confuse authority with spectacle. Spectacle excites crowds, but it also sharpens knives. Quiet power, on the other hand, moves without drawing attention to itself. It reshapes outcomes while leaving no obvious source to attack. The danger of appearing powerful is not moral, it is strategic. When people perceive you as powerful, they stop interacting with you naturally. They perform, they flatter, they conceal, or they resist quietly. Information quality collapses the moment power becomes obvious. People stop revealing who they are and start managing how they appear. Machiavelli understood that the loud display of dominance destroys the very intelligence needed to maintain it. You gain status, but you lose sight. Influence works best when it is unseen, because unseen forces are rarely opposed directly. People resist what they feel pressured by. They comply with what feels inevitable. Quiet power does not push behavior. It shapes conditions, so behavior adjusts on its own. When outcomes feel natural, opposition dissolves. When outcomes feel forced, resistance hardens. Machiavelli always favored inevitability over intimidation. This is the foundation of Rule 7. Build power privately. Let results speak publicly. Power that is accumulated silently does not trigger defensive reactions. While others posture, announce, and compete, the strategist builds quietly. Relationships, resources, leverage, positioning. By the time results appear, the work is already done. There is nothing left to argue against, because the outcome has materialized without conflict. Silent accumulation wins because it bypasses ego. Ego wants recognition. Strategy wants results. When power is built privately, it avoids provoking insecurity in others. Insecure people sabotage. Secure positioning does not invite sabotage because it is not perceived as a threat until it is too late to counter. Machiavelli knew that power which grows quietly feels less hostile, even when it is more complete. Rule 8 deepens this dynamic. Be respected without demanding respect. Demanding respect signals dependence. It announces that your authority requires confirmation. Machiavelli understood that respect cannot be negotiated verbally. It is a response to presence, restraint, and self-sufficiency. The moment you ask for respect, you reveal that you are unsure of your position. Non-neediness creates authority because it removes negotiation. When you do not seek approval, others sense stability. Stability feels safer than dominance. People align with what feels settled. They challenge what feels insecure. This is why calm individuals are rarely tested repeatedly. There is no emotional leverage to pull, no reaction to provoke, no insecurity to exploit. People adjust behavior automatically around quiet power. Tone changes, interruptions decrease, requests become measured, Aggression softens. This adjustment is unconscious. No one decides to treat you differently. They simply do. Their nervous system reads yours. Emotional containment communicates hierarchy without words. Psychological dominance without aggression is the highest form of influence because it leaves no scars. Aggression creates memory. Memory creates resistance. Quiet dominance creates adaptation. Adaptation creates permanence. When people adjust without being forced, the new dynamic stabilizes naturally. At this stage, all Machiavellian rules begin working simultaneously. Observation limits exposure. Unreadability blocks manipulation. Timing eliminates struggle. Silence gathers intelligence. Non-neediness stabilizes authority. Nothing is performed. Everything is positioned. This is why the strongest power is never announced. Announced power demands recognition. Unannounced power assumes it. Machiavelli understood that true influence feels less like command and more like gravity. People move not because they are pushed, but because the environment has shifted. The room reorganizes itself. Behavior recalibrates. Outcomes settle. This is not passivity. It is restraint, layered with precision. The quiet strategist does not chase dominance. They become the reference point others orient around. And because there is no confrontation, no declaration, no spectacle, there is nothing to fight against. That is why quiet power lasts. Lock this law fully. The strongest power is never announced. It is built where no one is watching. It moves where no one expects. And by the time it is noticed, it no longer needs to be defended. Now, becoming someone. No one tries to outsmart. At the highest level of strategy, the objective quietly changes. You stop trying to win interactions and start positioning yourself so winning is no longer required. This is the psychological shift Machiavelli understood better than most. Power struggles only exist where leverage is unclear. Conflict appears where hierarchy is uncertain. Truly strategic people are rarely challenged not because they overpower others, but because others intuitively sense that challenging them would be inefficient, risky, or pointless. Most people live trapped in a competitive mindset. They measure themselves against others, argue for status, defend their intelligence, and try to prove competence publicly. This keeps them in constant friction. Every interaction becomes a subtle contest. The quiet strategist exits this loop entirely. They do not compete loudly, because loud competition exposes intent. It signals hunger, insecurity, and emotional investment. And emotional investment is always exploitable. The moment you stop needing to win visibly, you remove the incentive for others to test you. This is why behavior around you changes when leverage disappears. People stop probing. They stop pushing boundaries. They stop escalating. Conversations become slower, more careful, more deliberate. Requests soften. Challenges evaporate, not because you demanded respect, but because there is nothing to gain by challenging you. Your calm, restraint, and unreadability signal that outcomes around you are not emotionally negotiable. And when emotional negotiation fails, most people disengage. Rule 9 defines the core skill of this identity. Outsmart by out-observing. Strategic dominance does not come from clever words. It comes from superior perception. Words are cheap. Incentives are real. The quiet strategist listens past language and watches behavior under pressure. They notice who becomes anxious when waiting, who rushes when uncertain, who flatters when threatened, who pressures when afraid. Incentives expose priorities. Priorities expose behavior. Behavior predicts outcomes long before they occur. Out-observing does not require brilliance. It requires patience and restraint. The observer sees more because they are not busy performing. While others talk to assert intelligence, the observer listens to extract it. While others react to provocation, the observer watches intent surface. Over time, this creates an asymmetry that cannot be imitated. You know more than you reveal. Others reveal more than they intend. Rule 10 completes the transformation. Never compete loudly. Loud competition announces insecurity. It invites resistance. It turns strategy into spectacle. When you argue for position, you expose desire. When you seek recognition, you reveal dependency. Quiet dominance does the opposite. It removes struggle from visibility. It allows hierarchy to form naturally instead of being forced. Quiet dominance is not avoidance. It is containment. You are still present, still engaged, still decisive. But you are not emotionally invested in proving superiority. This makes you difficult to outsmart. There is no obvious lever to pull, no predictable reaction to trigger, no visible hunger to exploit. Those who attempt to challenge you quickly realize they are revealing more than they are gaining. At this stage, all Machiavellian principles merge into a single posture. You observe more than you act. You let others reveal themselves first. You remain unreadable. You control emotion rather than outcomes. You let time expose weakness. You strike only when advantage is irreversible. You build power privately. You never demand respect. You out-observe. You never compete loudly. These are not techniques you switch on and off. They are an identity you inhabit. The quiet strategist archetype does not rush, does not announce, does not explain, does not react. They allow reality to move first. They respond only when response creates permanence. Their power does not come from confrontation, but from positioning. They do not chase leverage. Leverage forms around them. This is why silence, patience, and restraint create permanent advantages. Silence prevents exposure. Patience allows truth to surface. Restraint removes emotional hooks. Together, they eliminate friction. And where friction disappears, challenge fades. When you fully embody this identity, something profound happens. People stop trying to outsmart you, not because they fear you, but because they cannot read you. They cannot predict you. They cannot rush you. And without predictability, strategy collapses before it begins. This is the final Machiavellian law that seals the hierarchy permanently. The smartest move is often not to move at all. Stillness is not inactivity. Silence is not absence. Restraint is not a weakness. They are signals of internal command. And once internal command is established, external challenges dissolve, quietly, naturally, and without resistance. If this protocol revealed why the smartest power is never announced, tap like and hit subscribe, and comment this below. I move in silence. Because when you stop competing loudly, stop revealing intent, and start out observing, people stop trying to outsmart you.